Hi everyone, my name is Ann McElhinney.
And I'm Phelim McAleer.
Welcome to the Ann Phelim Scoop.
The Ann Phelim Scoop.
We'll be joined later on by Tom Fitton, the President of Judicial Watch.
To hear the latest on Obamagate, which you may be reading that it is apparently a conspiracy theory. Not so much. We'll be talking about that later. We'll be talking about the problem with models.
The real problem with models.
I remember being at a conference one time where a guy said how to get your website high up in the search ranks and all that there. And he said, he was a mathematician, and he said, when I talk about Swedish models, my hits go through the roof. We will be looking at the Swedish model later on.
Exactly. And we're going to be talking about the FBI Lovebirds, and people have been asking about the cats. We've had a few requests because people haven't seen them. And the reason we explained, I think, this before, because we haven't got Magda with us, we're using the iPhone and we're technologically whatever. So the shot is smaller. And so the cats are wandering around, but you're not seeing them.
See all the world's a stage, but our stage is a little smaller at the moment.
But what we're going to do to answer that particular, and we love the guys that you guys writing, and thank you so much for all the nice things that you're saying. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually also do, because people have also written and said, why is Anne not doing any cooking anymore? And by the way, I'm cooking up a storm. But a lot of family favourites are getting rehashed over and over again. But what I am going to do today is I'm going to share my pandemic cocktail. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to do the pandemic cocktail outside, and we're going to reintroduce the cats. So you're going to get to see the cats at the end of the show with the pandemic cocktail.
So what you're saying is we will be herding cats later?
Maybe. But we want to start today with an excellent piece from our friend Toby Young's site, Lockdown Skeptics. And for anybody out there who is looking for a really great clearinghouse of resources with, a skeptical eye on everything that's been going on, I would recommend people to go to Toby Young's site. It's called lockdownskeptics.org. But the piece that he had that I'm going to, shamelessly read from, which I just think is just brilliant. There had been actually funny. Toby Young has done a lot of analysis of the Imperial College, Neil Ferguson's Imperial College Model. And there's been a lot of criticism. There's been an enormous amount of criticism of that model in terms of the code and in terms of the fact that it was really old and that there was problems with the code.
You mean Neil Ferguson leg over, lockdown leg over?
Lockdown leg over. Neil Ferguson pants down lockdown.
Neil Ferguson flattening more than the curve.
Right. Yeah,
that's
the Neil Ferguson, and again, not to be confused with Niall Ferguson, by the way, who's the historian.
Neil Ferguson, did he use personal protection equipment? Get it?
So, moving right along.
Neil Ferguson.
Phelim, please. So Hector MacDonald. So basically, for Lockdown Skeptics, they're quoting from Hector Drummond, who's an academic.
Can I just say, I want to explain to people,
yes.
Neil Ferguson, who recommended that the UK be locked down, a drastic lockdown, decided that the rules weren't for him, and he took the time during the lockdown to twice visit his married lover.
His married lover, who
for some lockdown leg over.
And then we found out, actually, because like most people, I was concerned about the husband in this situation, the husband of the lover, and it turns out that they're in a polyamorous situation.
Can I just say something?
Apparently polyamorous. Open relationship.
You see, there was a difference there.
Oh, polyamorous and an open relationship are different?
Yes, right.
Oh, I get you.
Yes.
Oh, no, I don't get you.
Well, no, I mean, actually, I borrowed to there's a brilliant piece on the internet, a song, and the title of the song, why does it always turn out that the people who are polyamorous are the very last people you want to be polyamorous with?
Do you know something? That is really interesting that you say that, because anytime I've seen any polyamorous people, I've thought, ew.
Yeah.
Ew. But by the way, obviously I've got something wrong then, but I must be wrong, because they can get more than one lover.
Yeah, but would you want those lovers?
Because you don't know where that. You don't know where that.
Well, you know where it's been, and it ain't been anywhere pretty. That's a triumph of quantity over quality.
You know what they're going to do for us, Phelim? You know what they're going to do? Because they do this on the interwebs, and they do this. They put an E beside shows if they go explicit. So I want you to hold back there.
Hold back there. Which is something Neil Ferguson didn't do.
Okay, I would like to talk about the Swedish models now.
No, there is a difference between being a mistress and being in an open marriage and being polyamorous. By the way, so on that note, Associated Press have now decided.
I love that my husband is going to be super pedantic about these terms. Thank you for that.
Associated, a little bit of journalism 101. Actually, journalism 704, complete nonsense. They have decided it's no longer appropriate to call mistresses mistresses.
Oh, because it's got a kind of a
sexist,
sort of a moralistic tone to it.
Yes. So I mean, I don't
what
know.
do they call them now?
They're struggling.
Married lover. Paramour. Actually, I heard someone mention Neil Ferguson the other day and talked about his paramour. I thought paramour, I think it's very good. Actually, you know who it was who said that? It was Victor Davis Hanson. And I just thought, how delightful. Paramour, like that. Okay, I'm getting back to the story I want to do because we need to get to Tom Fitton as quickly as possible, please. And we talked to Tom Fitton earlier. So, but yes. So, on lockdown skeptics, they have this. So, as I said, they talked about the models. By the way,
I've ruined Anne's train of thought.
Yes,
she had this brilliant analysis of the piece, and I've just gone off into a polyamorous.
Well, don't keep going.
Rabbit hole.
Don't keep going, then, Phelim.
Polyamorous.
So basically, they basically.
Neil Ferguson.
Okay, Phelim. Seriously, you've got to stop now. That's not nice now. Okay. Do you want to tell this story now?
No. Go ahead.
All right. So there was these models now. That's not nice now. That's not nice.
Okay.
So Neil Ferguson is very critical of Imperial College. He's very, very critical of these models, and particularly critical of the fact that the code was wonky, according to all kinds of people who know these things, and also that the code was really outdated. But he has this really great piece by Hector Drummond, who is criticising the model from a very different perspective, and it's very, very good. And here's what he says, and I'm going to quote this directly, and anyone who wants to find all of this, you can find it on lockdownskeptics.org. Epidemiology seems to be one of those areas, like climate change, where model reliability matters far less than it should. This can happen to areas that become politicized and where the journals are controlled by strong armed cliques. It can also be a consequence of modern academia, where the emphasis has shifted almost totally to funding success. Funding success in areas like epidemiology can depend on exaggeration to impress people with agendas and money to burn, like Bill Gates. In an objective field, you would expect, after all, underestimates to be as prevalent as overestimates. Yet in this field, overestimates are rife. And the reason for this is the same reason as the reason why alarmism thrives in climate science. It's because all the research money goes to those who sound the alarm bells. I read that and I thought, that's an amazingly interesting perspective.
Yes.
And it sounds to me like it's totally on the money.
Yes.
And do you like that? See that? It's totally on the money because it's on the money. Because basically, it's not in your interests to downplay any climate data, because no one's interested. You know, the people with the money aren't interested. They're really interested in funding alarmism. So guess what?
In solving problems.
And in solving problems.
And being the superheroes.
But also, no, they're really invested in catastrophic modelling. They love the catastrophic, the apocalyptic. They really want everything to turn awful.
But the answer is why as well.
Why do they want that?
Yes, not the answer. That's the question. But they do, and is it to grab power? Is it to be seen as a savior? I always think also most people think that their lives are meaningless. They're not, by the way. Not that their lives are meaningless, but they don't do good things. They don't view, society has told us, raising your kids right and creating a generation of really upstanding people, or working hard and, being a part of society and volunteering. Society has sort of downgraded that. Now heroes are people who go on TV and shout loudly about the end of the world. And, therefore billionaires. I think Jeff Bezos thinks, I may have brought cheap materials to billions of people. I may have saved them hundreds of billions of dollars over the year and put that into working families' pockets. But I haven't done any good for the world. I need to save the world. And to save the world, you need to make sure the world is in peril. And therefore, you'll get lots of people to tell you the world is in peril, and they will take your billions and give you solutions that involve you
being the savior.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving right along, Phelim, you wanted to tell us something about the FBI Lovebirds.
Yes.
So and this is just before we go to Tom Fitton.
Yes. So FBI Lovebirds, was FBI Lovebirds Undercovers, to give it its full play. I just want to say something.
Undercovers are mine.
Yeah, I want to say something. I originally, because I'm British, right? Really, at the end of the day. By the way, there's a Northern Ireland GAA player.
Please. Are we going on a massive tangent here?
No, he was talking about the different ways that the coronavirus has been tackled in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Tackled.
And and he was speaking to a Southern Republic of Ireland radio station, and he was going, well, up here we're under, in the UK, but he basically had to leave Northern Ireland.
For saying that
in the UK
for actually describing for actually stating a fact.
Stating a fact, but
whether
also,
you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, but also it's not only a fact. Most of the time, a lot of times, it's kind of irrelevant to your life. But when you're under a 2-kilometre lockdown in the Republic and you're not under a 2-kilometre lockdown in the North, it actually makes a lot of difference to your day-to-day life.
Oh yeah,
your
becomes
ability
very
to travel.
appealing. And by the way, it becomes very appealing for people who live near the border.
So, how did I get onto that?
You see, there we go. I said it was a tangent. So I want to ask Phelim about FBI Lovebirds because we're about to talk to Tom.
Because I'm from the British tradition, and I mean I'm not theatre tradition. I wanted to call the FBI Lovebirds Undercovers play the insurance policy because that's kind of
nuanced.
And it's Graham Greene, the quiet American,
We don't want nuanced. We want everyone to know. No, because I think it's a great idea to have everything exactly what it says on the tin.
My wife,
I'm a big believer in that.
Vetoed that. And she doesn't often get a veto over me. Oh, she does quite a lot. Often I fight back, and I kind of reluctantly agree, but I wasn't fully bought into it. And I remember I was communicating with Dean Cain, then the actor who was going to be in it, and he had agreed to be in a play called The Insurance Policy.
Oh my God.
Yes.
But what, a different one?
No.
Oh, you had been, okay.
I had sold him this play about Struck and Page and called The Insurance Policy, and I was really worried and nervous that he was going to go, I'm not taking part in a play called FBI Lovebirds Undercovers. I'm an actor, and I wrote to him and said, well, kind of change the title. Hope it's okay with you. And he goes, what's the new title? And I wrote FBI Lovebirds Undercovers. He sent me more laughing emojis than I've ever been sent by a crazy teenager on drugs.
Very good.
So thank you, Anne, for vetoing the over-intellectual title. So FBI Lovebirds, look, it's the text messages of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, right? It is a love story. It is a coup d'etat. It is John le Carrier. It is ridiculous. They are funny.
It's funny. It's sad. It's tragic. It's frightening.
And it's always
funny. Somebody, when we had it on, actually at CPAC, one of the audience members who came up to ask a question at the end, she cried.
Yes.
Because she was one of those political junkies. Like, she knew everything. She'd read everything. And she said, even though she had read everything, it was much worse. What she discovered through the play was much worse in terms of treachery than she had even her with her knowledge about politics. And she cried and thanked us and said we had done a public service. That was actually really, I wish we'd filmed that, by the way.
So FBI Lovebirds, it's you can see it on FBILovebirds.com. I know it's effective because first time we had it on in DC, 6 days before it was supposed to go on, the theatre cancelled, just pulled out of said we're not honouring our contract. I should have sued them actually.
Oh yeah.
And
we don't have the money to sue though.
We don't have the money to sue,
unfortunately.
And then when we had it on at CPAC, I have never seen a blowback. I have never seen the mainstream media get so upset about something we did.
Do you know what it was like? Phelim? The reaction of the media to FBI Lovebirds being at CPAC was a little bit like that scene in The Exorcist where the girl's head twists around and all the green stuff comes out.
Actually, we'll put up some of those headlines now, right?
Just to show you,
show you.
And some of the stuff that they said,
Yeah, and you can see that on the YouTube. If you listen to this on the podcast.
And by the way, for those of you who are listening to the podcast and would like to watch this on YouTube, if you don't, at the end of the show, you're going to miss out on seeing Top Cat and Scaredy Cat, and you're going to miss out on looking at us making the pandemic cocktail. Right now, we need to go over to Tom Fitton.
Well, I wanted to say, listen, FBI Lovebirds Undercovers is not dead. It's not, it is
by no means dead.
It is coming back, and it's coming back in a very special way, and we're going to update it with all the stuff that's coming out.
We have big news, but we can't tell you yet.
We can't tell you that yet, but please.
Watch this space.
Go to the website, unreportedstorysociety.com, join up to the email list that you'll be the first to know.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea. That's a good idea.
Coming.
Sign up, yeah, exactly. And while you're at it, go to the Unreported Story Society and become a sustaining member. Yes. We need help.
Okay, so now we're going to go over to talk to Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch to hear the latest bit of Obamagate and the FBI Lovebirds. Let's go over to Tom now.
Okay.
We're joined now by Tom Fitton, who is the President of Judicial Watch, a internationally recognised expert on government corruption. And in fact, if you want to know what Anne and I will be working on 6 months from now, look at what Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch are working
Right,
on.
that's right.
It's sort of a stalky relationship, actually.
Are working on today. We get up every day and check what Judicial Watch are doing and saying, we could do something
We
on
should
that
do something about that.
in 6 months' time.
Yes.
So
We should make a drama of whatever it is that Tom is doing.
Yes. So, for example, before the last election, Tom and Judicial Watch were relentless in exposing the Hillary Clinton email scandal. They managed to force her top echelons to give depositions under oath. The judge refused to release
Allowed the videos to
to
be
release, but he did allow the transcripts. We immediately started reenacting the transcripts using Hollywood actors here. Last time I looked, it was over 2 million people had viewed those tapes on social media and on YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
Thank you for the script.
Thank you for the script, for your work of your lawyers. And, similarly, Tom and Judicial Watch have been among the main movers in exposing the Russia collusion hoax, the scandal that's now becoming Obamagate. And, of course, we based our play FBI Lovebirds on verbatim on the documents that are emerging. So partly because of the documents acquired by Judicial Watch. So we have a lot to talk about. So we'd like to welcome Tom Fitton, President of Judicial Watch.
Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thank you for having me. Good to be with you both, and finally.
So most people listening to this will probably know what Judicial Watch is. Can you give us a little summary of what it is and what you do and why it's important?
Well, we're actually a nonprofit educational foundation. So our work is really about educating Americans about what their government's up to. We do that by using the Freedom of Information Act, which is a federal law, and then there's state versions of the law to get documents that we've all been talking about. But when the government commits misconduct or steps outside the law, we also sue directly to enforce the rule of law as well. So we're a watchdog. There's nothing like Judicial Watch in the country in terms of the breadth, depth, and seriousness of our work. And by saying there's nothing like us in the country, I mean there's nothing like us in the world. And this is a great country. Nowhere else in the world would there be a Judicial Watch allowed to operate the way we are.
We agree.
I agree, and you often find that the strongest organizations in this country are ones that do something nobody else does. You're really there doing a unique service. So
Public service.
you've been one of the leading voices in exposing the corruption in the DOJ and the FBI, the malfeasance. There's so much information coming out about the FBI and how the Obama administration and the FBI illegally spied on the Trump campaign and the presidency. There's a lot of information coming out, and it's coming out all the time. Can you just sum up for our viewers and our listeners what was so outrageous? Why should people who haven't been following the story very closely, why should they care? Isn't this just normal politics or normal law enforcement? So tell us why we should care, and where do you think the Obamagate scandal will go next?
Well, there's been nothing like it in American history in the sense that we didn't have the technology available to spy on citizens the way we now have. And the Obama administration just decided to deploy that technology and the massive government infrastructure at the federal level involved intelligence gathering and law enforcement to target his political enemies. And I would take a step back. Everyone says it's about Trump. Well, Trump wasn't the first victim here. Who was the first victim? The Tea Party movement in 2012, where the IRS and the Justice Department and the FBI were tasked to try to put people in jail who were seen as opponents of President Obama. It helped him in many ways steal an election in plain sight. He suppressed an entire political movement through that IRS abuse. And we found out subsequently the FBI was involved as well. They were trying to figure out ways to put people in jail who were the targets of the IRS abuse as well. So come back around 2016. Well, how is it they try to protect their election prospects again? Well, they had Hillary Clinton, who had a major criminal liability because of her mishandling classified information and her stealing and deleting emails. They were forced to at least do a pretend investigation, but concurrently they were working with her to try to destroy Donald Trump. And you had them manufacture, I don't even necessarily think it was Russia disinfo. I think it was Western Intel disinfo, FBI disinfo, Sidney Blumenthal disinfo, Hillary Clinton disinfo, to try to smear President Trump or then candidate Trump. And they were spying on him. They were using the FBI to spy on the president's political campaign. Incredible.
It's amazing. I mean, people need to just sum it up like that. And the Steele dossier, if anyone wants to read the Steele dossier, it's like a child wrote it. It's half-truths, it's hearsay, it's based on nothing, it's ludicrous. It was instantly checkable and instantly debunkable. He got lots of things wrong. It wasn't even a good smear. But it gave the FBI the cover, and then they had this alleged conversation in a bar in London with George Papadopoulos, who said, "Oh, the Russians, we're working with the Russians." And then they used that as and Carter Page, he once traveled to Russia and met a few Russians. They used this to spy, as you say, to spy on a campaign.
Well, remember, all of that was after the fact, though, Phil. They came up with the scenario, well, we're going to target Trump. Well, who do we target to get at him? Carter Page, General Flynn, all of that, there was no basis to target any of them. We just obtained the document they used to justify the opening, allegedly, because we think it opened earlier, of the spy operation against Trump, written by none other than Peter Strzok.
Exactly.
And it turns out that Lisa Page was helping him write it as well. We know from the text messages. There he talks about they get some information that the Russians, Lord forbid, are trying to communicate, figure out who to talk to is important in the Trump campaign, to figure out what's going to happen if they win.
I saw that. I read that. I read that.
Oh my! Stop the presses. A foreign government's trying to figure out how to work with an incoming administration potentially.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's worth re-emphasizing that in the document that was used to set up the investigation into the Trump campaign, they said one of the areas of concern was that the Russian government, a foreign government, was looking to see who they could talk to find out what the incoming administration might do regarding them. It would be criminal if the Russians didn't do that. It would be criminal if the British didn't do that. I mean, this is what happens when a new government comes into the States. Everyone's going, do you know, and all the embassies in Washington, they're all going, I once had dinner with that guy and now he's the third undersecretary. I should meet him for a coffee. This is what people do.
It's normal.
It's
normal
normal.
practice.
But they decided to pretend it's abnormal to launch an investigation. Is that right?
It was an absurd analysis. It was perfectly in line with Peter Strzok's approach on things and the Obama White House's approach on things. Absurd. It was third-hand gossip, and there was no basis. Let's say it was all true. It still wasn't sufficient to launch a spy operation, unprecedented, on the president's campaign. And people should understand, going back to that campaign, Obama was heavily invested in picking his successor, like no incumbent president had been for 100 years in this country. Most incumbent presidents in recent history have stayed out of the political campaign.
Yes.
Not Obama. So he wanted Hillary Clinton to win. He obviously was guiding the Justice Department investigation. He didn't think there was any there. He said as much. Sure enough, Justice Department found that. And we now know, based on the text messages and the recent revelations, he was hip deep on the targeting of Trump.
Where does this go now? Where does Obamagate go?
It doesn't go where I think many Americans want it to go, which is to significant prosecutions of senior level Obama administration officials. Attorney General Barr, beyond signaling or being quite explicit that there's no information that suggesting there will be a criminal investigation of Biden or Obama. Now, I disagree with that, but he went further. He said just because something looks terrible and is, corrupt, widely abusive, it doesn't mean it's illegal. So that's a signal.
Yes, it certainly sounds like, yeah.
Don't expect much. Now, Peter Strzok, maybe he faces liability. Maybe that FBI agent, Mr. Kleinsmith, who altered the Carter Page CIA document allegedly to change him from a patriot into a traitor. Yep. Really disgusting to try to get the FISA warrant approved, successfully so. Maybe he gets indicted. But what I see coming out of this is a glorified IG report with not much in the way of serious prosecutions. Brennan hasn't even been questioned yet. Inexcusable, really.
Yeah. Just to tell people about the Carter Page. So Carter Page was meeting Russians, but he was working for the CIA, right, and reporting back on his meetings to the Russians. The FBI told the FISA judge he's meeting Russians, but forgot to tell he was risking his life and liberty to work for the CIA. They didn't tell the judge that. They just said he's meeting these dodgy Russians.
Well, in fact, they altered the document saying he was working for the CIA.
Oh,
that's amazing.
It's extraordinary.
Amazing.
We're gonna move on to another topic. So obviously we've got a bit of a coronavirus going on here, and I know that recently you've been working with the Daily Caller to get access to the WHO's conversations with Anthony Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci. So how did that come about, and what do you expect to find, and why is it important?
Well, we've worked with our friends, the Daily Caller News Foundation, many times. We represent reporters regularly trying to get information. So there are reporters out there who want the truth, and FOIA is a key way to do that. And they were seeking a FOIA on what was Fauci and his top deputy talking about coronavirus early on. What were they communicating with WHO about in China on that topic with WHO, and specifically as it relates to China. So we want to know what they were talking about, what they were learning from WHO about the coronavirus in China, and other documents that may pop up on those topics. And so it's pretty simple. What's not simple is just getting the answers. So we've had to sue in court. Fauci has suggested, I don't think he suggested, he said he was misled by the Chinese. And was he misled via the WHO? How did that happen? He recognized that, when he looks back at what decision-making he was doing early on, he didn't recognize how transmittable it was, how communicable it was. And it's pretty clear that was based on false information from the Chinese, and we're trying to ferret that out.
Good luck with that.
A very important task, though.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you were one of the first Conservatives to speak out against the lockdown, even in April. I think as early as April, you were one of the first people to speak out against the lockdown. Why did you speak that? What was it that made you take that position at that stage, that early stage?
I was very concerned about the coronavirus early on. So if you look back, I was nervous about it, and I wanted the travel bans, and I thought we needed to take it very seriously because I didn't think China was locking down what they were doing because it was, quote, just like the flu. I thought it was a serious issue that needed to be addressed. But then you have this panicked overreaction by states. And remember, you have to go back and you look at the CDC initial guidance on this, and I think it's still pending, or at least it was until the absurd phase plan that they came up with that makes no sense. But the CDC guidance for months was there was never any guidance to do statewide shutdowns. If it became a contagion within the community, even then they didn't recommend statewide shutdowns. It was a case by case. If there's a school that's at issue, close the school down. Nothing about closing down entire school systems. Nothing about closing down entire states. And this was just panic decision making by the governors. Ratified, frankly, by the federal bureaucracy, medical establishment, but it wasn't based on science. Nothing like this had ever been done in American history, in world history, and now we know that maybe it wasn't effective. It wasn't as impactful as people had thought. And let's just say that the initial shutdowns, look, we didn't know what was happening. You give people a pass, right? But continued shutdowns that are indiscriminate, that have really no science behind them. Yeah. Now this is just a power play.
Yes.
And we're on the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah.
Oh, and talking of the wrong end of the stick, we're talking to you unfortunately, from California. Where you talk about being in the wrong end of the stick. We're on the wrong end of the stick in more ways than one. Yeah. But actually, again, Judicial Watch have taken a lead and done something really wonderful here. And we want to thank you from California for your TRO, where you've taken out this TRO against California, a temporary restraining order to stop them from making these payments, cash payments, to illegal immigrants. Every day we're all waking up to these awful stories of real lives who are destroyed, imperiled, impoverished, and brought into extremely dangerous situations based on this lockdown, not based on the virus, based on the actual lockdown itself. And now, instead of deploying any resources that are available to actual people who live here legally or paying taxes or trying to get by, they're going to make these huge cash payments to illegal immigrants. Tell us about the background to that. But thank you, by the way, for doing that. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, we haven't succeeded yet in shutting the money off, but at least we're in court fighting for it. Ironically, the legislature, in theory, can pass a law providing cash payments to illegal aliens in these circumstances. But of course, the law doesn't matter to Governor Newsom, evidently, who just on his own just designated the money to shovel it out. And so we're trying to say, look, if you're going to do this, you have to follow the law, and the legislature has to be accountable for doing it. And you just can't have an executive make this decision on his own. I mean, you see this with his mail-in ballot scheme, where on his own, he's just ordering all these counties to start doing mail-in voting without any authorization from the legislature. The rule of law can't be a casualty to the coronavirus. We don't have a coronavirus crisis in this country anymore. We have a constitutional crisis. We have an economic crisis. We got to get our society back open again, because into this realm we're in now, where we're all shut down. What is rushed in? Power-hungry leftists who are using it to impose policy they would never be able to oppose in non-emergency circumstances.
And you're right. It's the capriciousness of it too. I mean, it went from this lockdown, as you say. Many of us thought, okay, let's. This is an emergency. Let's go with this. But as you say, it's now emerged into a power grab, and most of what they're suggesting now has no basis on science. I mean, we can go on the beach now. You have to wear a mask on the beach. You couldn't go on the beach. They were putting people on roads beside the beach, which are narrow, as opposed to the beach, which was wide.
Yeah, they were forcing people to walk on pavements. What do you call those in America?
Sidewalks.
Where you were squashed into the sidewalk, where you got this here where we are in LA County, 25 miles of beach available. And for a very long period, we weren't allowed on the beach at all. Now, actually, they've even got the more ludicrous law now, where you have to be on the beach, but only active. You can't be on the beach inactive. You can't sit on the beach. You can't sunbathe.
But also the beginning, the lockdown was flatten the curve to stop the
activity. I don't know. Is that?
I'm certainly working on that one. That's my act of defiance. Yeah. Out of my cold dead hand, you'll take this glass of beautifully chilled rosé. Yes. I had to go there, Phil. I'm sorry.
Yes. It's true. Well, we also made sandcastles.
sandcastles.
We took our godson as cover and made sandcastles.
With a 2-year-old.
This is activity.
And actually, by the way, I have to tell you that a lady came along in her big Jeep, from the Parks and Recreation, and she came up to me. I thought, I can't believe this is happening. And she said to me, you are not allowed to be here not being active on the beach. And I immediately said, take me away, you got to arrest me then for this terrible activity. And she said, no, I'm not going to arrest you, but I'm telling you. And I said, well, I've heard you. And so anyway, but we were active making sandcastles. Yes. But actually, by the way, just to add to the madness of this, you're allowed to be active on the beach, but you're not allowed to park your car at the beach. So as you say, this has given a moment for these power-hungry types.
But it's also
for madness.
It's gone from locking down to flatten the curve, which a lot of people agreed with. You didn't want to now everywhere is New York. Like, I was looking, Oregon has 144 deaths.
Montana has 10. Montana, Wyoming.
But they're under the same lockdown as New York.
So look, you're educated people. You can look at the information, but you don't presume to run a country of 330 million people. Yeah. But some people in Washington are more than happy to do that. Governors are willing to do that for their own states. To go back to Obamagate, we got Susan Rice being designated as head of Reopen DC here in the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. Of course, we're still shut down. Mm-hmm. So you've got the corrupt Obama official getting a leg in on the coronavirus shutdown politics and policies. And so, of course, DC is still closed. And look, and I want to go back to the rule of law here. And this is something I think your listeners should try to understand, because I kind of try to figure this out. To the degree the law allows emergency shutdowns or quarantines, it's got to be limited and specific in nature.
Yes.
So if you as a family, there's a medical issue that's contagious, maybe the government has the ability to keep you in your home for a week. Mm-hmm. But there's no law, either common law or constitutional law, that allows you to be deprived of all your liberties for months at a time. And I'm not talking First Amendment. I'm talking about your right to property. You have a right to your job, your businesses. They talk about liabilities for businesses. What about the liabilities for states? I think the states are facing potentially significant liability over their takings of property through this emergency declarations that have no basis that destroy businesses. This is, and what's disappointing once again is that the Justice Department is AWOL on most of this. Yeah, they filed briefs and issued a few warnings on religious freedom issues, where the law is pretty good on, but on our core liberties, AWOL.
Yeah, it's awful. It's really terrible.
Well, talking of core liberties, there's an election coming up in November, and you've been very active in voter fraud litigation. What can we see? What can we
see on the horizon?
With absentee ballots, etc. What should we watch out for, and what are you watching out for?
What can we do?
Well, they wanted to blow up they've blown up the economy. Coronavirus has. It's destroyed our freedoms. Now they want to destroy free and fair elections. Now the left has always wanted to do this. It was part of their initial plan when they came into Congress. Their number one bill was what you're hearing proposed now: national mail-in ballots programs, national ballot harvesting, overturning voter ID everywhere. And they're trying to do that nationally, obviously, and they'll probably have a tough time in the Congress, given the way it's made up. And obviously, President Trump, we know his views on it. So it's a state-by-state battle. So one thing we're concerned about, if you're doing mass mailings of voter ballots or absentee ballot applications, whatever have you, you got to make sure the lists are clean. And we've done analysis after analysis, most recently in 2019, 2.5 million extra names on the rolls. At least. In California, we had sued to get California to try to clean up its rolls, and specifically Los Angeles County. And Los Angeles County settled with us, which is good for Los Angeles County. And they've begun a process to remove up to, in that county alone, 1.6 million names. And we just sued in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. There are 2 million names between those two states, it looks like, that need to be cleaned up. So when you hear about all these mail ballots, you have to wonder, and you should be concerned, that they'll be going to people who aren't there anymore. And of course, if you want to even vote by mail, it's not a terribly secure way to vote. The most secure way to vote is to go in person, day of the election and vote, or to a polling place and vote in person.
Yeah.
Relying on the Postal Service to either get you your ballot and get it back, knock on wood.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, if you can go to Costco, by the way, with everybody else, you can go and vote. I mean, the basis for this total change in the way people vote is there is no basis for that,
Well, there is. They're setting up the steal. I mean, that's what they're doing. They oppose voter ID. They oppose cleaning up the rolls. I mean, we filed these lawsuits in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. I mean, the process in theory would take 4 years at least to remove a name from the rolls for many cases. Yeah. The left doesn't want that. They're jumping in to try to stop that. They hate what we did in California. They hate voter ID. The idea of confirming citizenship as you register to vote, that's not even done anywhere, practically speaking. And then you've got the ballot harvesting in California, which is just a recipe for intimidation and fraud. They're setting up the steal for 2020 and beyond.
And we just want to tell people we're from Ireland,
we taught you how to do this stuff.
We practically invented vote stealing, in Ireland as part of the British elections. There's a whole culture of stealing votes and impersonating.
We invented this.
And ballot harvesting, and as even a phrase in the graveyard, everybody
votes the same.
So
we have a song where there's a line in that. Everybody in the graveyard votes the same.
And if you notice, most of the centres of ballot stealing are Irish American centres, interestingly
You're
enough.
welcome.
You're welcome. This is a bit of cultural exchange we brought to you. But people should know.
Another burden of my Irish heritage, I guess, huh?
Yes. People should know it's not as difficult to steal votes as you'd think.
Unfortunately.
Especially if you're Irish like we are.
Yeah.
And people should be very aware of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So, well, thanks very much, Tom. I think we've run out of time here.
Yes, but can you just tell us what's the name of the dog? Because we were interrupted earlier by the dog. What's the dog's name?
As an Irishman, you'll love it. It's Bridie.
Oh, That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Our audience... Our Golden Shepherd? What is it?
Right, a German Shepherd.
A German Shepherd. Our audience particularly likes pets because we've got two cats that normally walk across our arrangement here. So we've got them.
I think
down
you just
today.
invented a new type of dog, the Golden Shepherd.
The Golden Shepherd. He probably is a Golden Shepherd, exactly. So I was thinking, that's an interesting one. All right, listen, we're really, really grateful for your time. I know you're very, very busy, but you're a hero, and we really appreciate all the work that you guys do. And again, keep in touch because we're always watching what you guys are doing because we want to make a drama of it.
Yeah.
We're waiting to depose Hillary Clinton, so we have a hearing on June 2nd on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The judge has just said you can depose her, and then it went to the appeal. But she managed. Just to give people the backup, she was the one who got away, but she's not got away yet. So let's see what she has to say.
Yeah. Well, we'll be hanging on. We'll be hanging on for that. All right. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. So we're outdoors now, and excuses for any noise that you might hear because there's actually building work going on all over the place. But that was a really great interview with Tom Fitton. We were really grateful for him giving us the time.
Yes. Very interesting. Watch this space about Obamagate.
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot more. But I've promised. So a lot of people have been upset about the fact that we haven't had any recipes lately, and we haven't had any cocktails lately. So we're going to have a cocktail right now.
Why don't you geographically tell people where we are, though?
We're in Venice, California.
We're in our back garden.
We're in our back garden.
Our back garden.
We're in our back garden?
Yes.
We're in our back garden in Venice,
People
California.
might think this is a stock back garden.
This is not a stock back garden. This is
one
a back
that
garden.
Podcasters use to show
And anyone, by the way, who sees any mess anywhere, please don't mention that.
There's a pandemic on.
There's a pandemic on. So it's very useful when you're making this cocktail. So I'm going to call this the pandemic cocktail. My spicy...
Can I just say, if you want to see our back garden, go to YouTube if you're listening to this. I know most people listen to it on the podcast, but actually go to the YouTube video and watch it there.
Yes.
Ann Phelim Scoop.
All right. So we're going to make my go-to pandemic spicy tequila cocktail thing. And this is and so it's useful to have one of these to produce the lime juice. So I'm going to give you a pint glass. Look at this, by the way. Can I just say, Guinness, lime juice. Do you see that noise now? I hope that noise isn't a problem. Can you make the lime juice there for me, Phil?
How do I make the lime juice now?
So I want you to cut that lime in
half.
And by the way,
cut it in
I
half
think
like
this... Yeah, cut it in half of that. But I think this is like the most useful thing ever. I love this thing for squeezing limes.
What would you call that thing for people who are not...
A lime squeezing. A lime squeeze... by the way, it's called it's a citrus squeezer. It's a citrus squeezer. So really easy to say that, by the way.
Did you pick these limes from your own garden? Or?
I did not. These fabulous limes came, by the way, look at these gorgeous limes. Hang on, people can't see these limes. These limes, beautiful limes, came from Costco.
Especially in Costco.
What I would do with this cocktail is, and I'm going to make this spicy, and how I'm going to make it spicy is I'm going to introduce a jalapeno. And what I do is I buy a whole bunch of jalapenos and I put them into the freezer for this very purpose. And then Phelim is also going to cut...
Is this where I say, and here's one I prepared earlier?
No, it's not, because we're not going to do that. And actually, it's becoming a problem because I brought the ice out of the kitchen and now I keep on having to empty out the water out of the ice. And I've got to... a lot of people have those fancy, cocktail shakers. So I don't have one, and I didn't have one for the pandemic. So what's great is a jam jar, and I love jam jars, and it's really funny. I have a real problem with getting rid of jam jars, so the house is full of jam jars. And this beauty,
I could attest to that.
If you were making this cocktail for a large group of people, you could use one of these, which would be very good.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that noise?
I can hear that noise.
Like we're having.
Oh, and by the way, we need to find the cat's film. So many of these have you squeezed now? Not enough yet. Two. Oh, really? That's two? That's quite a lot of juice, by the way.
Yeah.
This
is where, here's one I prepared earlier.
And can I just say that what's very good about this, by the way, is that citrus is very good for you anyway. So this is a great way of introducing citrus. It reminds me of a very good friend of mine from Scotland that Phelim, who used to prepare carrots using sugar and said, vegetables need help. And so, you could remember that she did that. Now, in fairness, her carrots were very nice. I think I've got enough lime juice. I've got enough lime juice right there. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to...
So, in the cookery programs, I don't see them do it so much in American ones, particularly in British ones, they used to say, here's one I prepared earlier, and they get rid of all this prep
stuff. They never do that. They never
Yes.
do that with a drink.
But what do you think happened, the thing that they had, we were preparing, so they're doing all this, and then...
Oh, no, but that would get, somebody else would cook that. Oh gosh, I can't get the top off that film. That's the one. So what happened there with this bottle was that we lost the bottle top of it. So we put a plastic top bottle on it,
All
just
right.
to kind of, okay, I opened it. The other thing that I think is really useful to have, I really think this is useful to have, and by the way, this is a piece of advice. Oh, Phelim, that's enough now.
Okay.
That's enough lime for right now. Thanks a million. And by the way, what I want you to do now is I want you to cut really thin slices of that jalapeno, which is frozen jalapeno. Yum, 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 yum. For those of you who like spicy drinks.
Can I just
say that
be
John
excused
Michael,
for a moment
my
to go and
go
see-
get the cats?
Yes.
And see where they are. So while Phelim's gone, I'm going to just say that I think this is a really useful thing to have, a measure for alcohol. And my father made the point, and my father was extremely abstemious, but he made the point that by having a measure, if you were to offer someone an alcoholic beverage in your home and you had a measure, the person who takes the alcoholic beverage knows exactly what they've had. You know what I mean? It makes sense. So that this is a measure. So I love this. I have 2 of them. But yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to measure out 1 measure of tequila, and I think this is
So
1.5 ounces.
this is Top Cat.
Oh, there's Top Cat. I'm
So-
trying to think where I'm going to put this now. I
Top
think I'm going to
Cat
put it in here.
He's rather sleepy.
I'm going to put it in there.
But people have been complaining they haven't seen the cats as much.
Are you sure the cat can be seen in the camera now?
Yes, I can. Yes, you can. Look at the camera, Top Cat. Say hello to all the people that've been asking about you.
Look at all the people.
They've been asking about you.
See what I've done there now? I've got the tequila in there and I've got the ice in there.
And he's going to make a run
Now
for
I'm
it
going to
now.
put in this lime juice. This
Okay.
wonderful lime juice. You need a second cat, by the way,
didn't have
Phil.
a microphone.
Lime juice.
Well, I think.
I also want you to put in, to cut me up, lots and lots of
Do we keep the seeds?
jalapeno. Yeah, keep the seeds. Keep the seeds
Oh.
for me because, oh no, that's where
Whoa.
the heat is. That's where the heat is.
What's that?
I'm going to throw that in. Don't worry about that. Throw that in.
Isn't there something about the seeds making something bitter or something like that?
No, they make it really hot. That's where all the heat is.
Oh, those tomatoes that make the seeds are bitter.
Okay,
Isn't that right?
this is going to go in here.
And
then
I'm asking advice for all the people out there who are thinking should I keep the
if
seeds.
I put it, I haven't got everything
Or
in here.
more
No,
jalapenos?
I want you to stop for a minute now. Actually, you know what? Put them in anyway. I really like it hot. Okay, stop there now.
Well, actually, I should wash my hands after dealing with that cat.
You should.
Okay, I'm going to wash my hands.
He's going to wash his hands, but he cut the jalapeno, and the jalapeno is in the. Are you sure? So the next thing that I would say is, this is a pandemic cocktail. So what do you put in here as a mixer? Anything, I think is the answer. Perrier water is one possibility if you don't have anything else. I'd prefer something more fizzy. And I would like club soda. You know what I like about club soda? It has 0 calories.
I'm back.
Film's back.
For hands
And
that
then-
do dishes that are as soft as your face. Mild green, very liquid.
No idea what that's about. Except, oh yeah, so then the other thing I have to say, and I think this is important, I really think this is actually something that I feel really strongly about. Schweppes tonic water. So, I might take my hair out of my mouth. So Schweppes tonic water, right, this is diet tonic water. And by the way, Canada Dry would never have been acceptable in my home. Schweppes is the only one to go with. But Schweppes regular tonic water has 33 grams of sugar per portion. So that's an enormous amount of sugar, which I actually think ruins the drink. I want my mixer to have no sugar in it. So I'm going to go with this one, which is a diet tonic water containing quinine. And given the fact that perhaps there's a connection between malaria treatments and the COVID, I think getting a bit of quinine in here, why not?
If the president recommended it, I'll eat the fish.
It's good enough for me.
finger.
Oh! Alrighty, that wasn't meant to happen.
No.
Okay, this is going to go in here. A little bit of this, like that. And by the way, clearly you're going to all write and say I didn't do any measuring, and that's probably not a good thing. And I'll do that again another time. But right now, this is, as I said, a pandemic cocktail. So we're just working with what we have. Isn't that great? And actually, this is another use for a husband. Let me put this back on properly, and you do a bit of shaking there, Phil.
Do you have a cocktail glass? Are you going to...
Oh yeah, a cocktail glass. That's a good one, actually. I hadn't thought about that. And the truth is, I don't actually have cocktail glasses
Okay,
anyway.
we'll just use the pint glass.
I just
then.
really no. We're not going to drink it out of a pint glass.
No?
I'm going to drink it out of this.
Yeah,
a little
but-
bit of this. But actually, when you go into the kitchen
There's
there,
a
Phil,
pint glass then.
that's not a pint glass. Do you think that's a pint glass?
Yes.
Anyway, isn't this delightful? Now, what you could know, by the way, some of you are looking and thinking, first of all, spicy. You don't have to do spicy. The other people are looking and thinking, oh God bless us, that's incredibly bitter, right? I don't have a problem with that. I actually like it like that because I'm bitter anyway, right? Is that what you're trying to say? So what you could do is
sugar. Sugar is evil.
sugar is
Further.
evil. No, but by the way, you know what you could throw in there, and you
Free
totally
sugar.
could. You could put in some honey in there. Totally put in some honey in there. But I actually think, let me just try this, right? And the truth is that we're about to go across the road here in our neighbourhood and have the, what's it called, Phelim?
A block party.
A block pandemic.
Block happy hour
A
party.
block pandemic happy hour with our neighbours, who we would never have met, by the way, if it weren't for the pandemic. Can I just say, seriously, that's delightful. That is really delightful. It's really refreshing, my mother's phrase for an alcoholic beverage. Very refreshing, nice and spicy. And I think this, by the way, is brilliant. This, yeah, I as I said, I have a real problem throwing away jars. So listen, look at, here's to everyone. And I think, what else do we have to say, Phelim?
I think we're coming out of the lockdown. I mean,
We're
the
beginning
rest
to
of
feel-
America is coming
yes.
out of the lockdown. We're not. I just saw, it's amazing what these Democrat mayors are doing. I just saw the mayor of Washington has decided there's going to be no gatherings of over 250 people until there's a cure found. It went from flattening the curve till you aren't allowed to do anything enjoyable until we find a cure. And it's like, no, actually. No.
People need to get on with it, and people need to get out. And I actually think my mood has definitely changed because of the fact that I feel like things are beginning to get back to some kind of normality. We're wishing you well where you are. Thank you so much for tuning in and being our friends, particularly this last while when we've been kind of locked up, and getting all of your lovely messages have been really, really gorgeous.
And your reviews are wonderful. Please keep leaving them at the
and to our sustaining members who we love more than anything else.
Yes.
You guys are just our rock stars, and we're going to have special content for you guys. And
forward.
if you want to be a sustaining member, please go to the unreportedstorysociety.com and give what you can. As I said, you can give, anything you want for every month. Would just really help us keep on the road. And this is going to be an incredible year. God bless. Take care. From our lockdown to yours. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.